Hello everyone, this is Raphael, the creative director for The Long Dark. I'm excited to share more details about our latest update to survival mode. We're calling this one STEADFAST Ranger. For those players who have been following our development for a while, you know our updates typically include a number of new features and improvements to existing gameplay tools. We try to go back to mechanics and improve upon them, while also adding new elements to the toolbox, giving you more choices for how to survive. The game has become huge and complex with so many overlapping systems, so we find this incremental approach lets us slowly build up the game on all sides, without fundamentally breaking anything. And each survival update also tends to lay another brick in the foundation of gameplay you'll experience in the upcoming episodes of Wintermute, our story mode. The first thing we've fixed in this update is the SPRAIN system. A much hated feature in our game, SPRAINs have received a full overhaul, both on the systems and presentation levels. We've added a HUD element that warns you when you're walking on steep surfaces that could result in getting a sprain, while also increasing the slope angle that you need before you risk getting one. These should help clarify what kind of behaviors may lead to sprains so that you better understand the risks you're taking. The result should be far fewer sprains, but the ones you end up with will hopefully make more sense. We've also changed the sprain affliction itself to remove the insta-heal nature of the previous iteration. We've now split the sprain into two effects, a limp and pain. The pain affliction introduces a kind of pulsing visual effect to the screen, which is meant to be noticeable but not debilitating. It's treated with painkillers. The limp prevents you from sprinting and also adds a camera movement and pain voiceover to help sell the effect. It's treated with a bandage. So sprains should be more rare now, but when you get them, are harder to treat and have more of a gameplay impact. Remember that you can still get sprains from struggles and falls, and if the limp camera animation bothers you, you can always use the dampen camera motions option in the accessibility features to turn it off, without removing the other gameplay penalties. We've expanded the list of natural remedies in the game by adding birch bark tea. You can collect birch bark, typically found near birch trees, prepare it in the crafting menu, and then brew the tea like you would any other hot drink. The birch bark tea has a slow-acting condition restore effect. Keep in mind the buffs don't stack, so think of birch bark tea as part of an ongoing condition maintenance regimen, and less like a magic health pack. Like most things in the Long Dark, there are no quick fix solutions. It's only through careful planning and maintenance that you can hope to survive over the long term. Sometimes exhaustion sets in and throws your whole day's survival plans into chaos. We've all been in those situations where we need a stamina boost for that final stretch of sprinting or the last few meters of that rope climb up Timberwolf Mountain. And you can't always just drop whatever you're doing to take a little nap. As of this update, keep your eyes open for the new energy drink, something that can boost your stamina and reduce your fatigue temporarily when you're in those tricky situations. Just keep in mind that you might suffer a bit of a headache afterwards. Rifle aiming has been pretty miserable for a while, so we thought it was high time that we fixed it. We updated the model and fixed the aim mode, which should help you fire more accurately and better understand your hits and misses. When you're in top condition, you should be able to hit your targets much more reliably than before. At the same time, the Long Dark is not a shooter. We just use shooting as part of your overall survival toolbox. So we asked ourselves how we could make our survival gameplay a more integral part of our rifle shooting gameplay. What we came up with is having your various external conditions directly impact your ability to aim and shoot successfully. We've replaced the circular sway animation with a procedural aim animation that is affected by your breathing, your cold, and your fatigue levels. If you come in off a sprint and are breathing heavily, you'll notice this heavy breathing makes your aiming much more of a challenge. The solution is to wait for your breath to calm down before lining up the shot. If you're too cold, you'll begin to shiver, which also makes it harder to aim. So make sure you dress appropriately when going out on a hunting trip, or consider making short excursions from the warmth and protection of a campfire or interior shelter. Aim mode now has its own stamina meter, which means you can't just hold in a fixed aim mode forever. You have a window of time to take your shot in before you will need to reset it. This aim stamina is impacted by how fatigued you are. And of course, all three of these factors compound each other. The end result is that if you want to hunt successfully, you need to prepare for it. Get in your top condition, rest up, get warm, and plan out your hunting excursions. All these effects are reduced as you gain rifle skill, and keep in mind you might not experience the full spectrum of these system changes if you've already maxed out your rifle skill before. As always, I recommend you start a new survival run so that you can try these new features out in a fresh game. Of course, unpredictability is a huge part of what makes the Long Dark compelling. You can't always rest and warm yourself up before that surprise wolf attack, and the rifle isn't always the most responsive defensive firearm. It's really designed more to be used as a long-range hunting tool. That's why we've added a new firearm to the game, the revolver. Unlike the rifle, the revolver is a defensive firearm. That's not to say you can't use it to hunt rabbits and even wolves if necessary, but that's not what it's good at. It's good at deterring hostile wildlife. The revolver has a lower powered shot, but ammunition is more abundant. It can be fired less accurately from the hip as a quick strafing reaction shot from when you're caught by surprise. It can also be fired in an in mode where you are holding your ground. You sacrifice mobility for accuracy. The revolver has a dedicated skill whose progression is separate from the rifle skill. We've also added the revolver to the struggle weapon picker. You can use the revolver as a melee weapon to try to fight off an attacking wolf, and if you have loaded ammunition, you can even take a shot if you progress far enough in the struggle. The shot may or may not kill the wolf, but it will definitely scare it off. The revolver is only the second real firearm we've added to the long dark, and we don't really have plans to add more at this point. It's always been my fear that players would begin to run around the world of the long dark with a gun in hand, making it feel more like a traditional shooter. But in any case, I think the revolver and the rifle both have clear roles in the survival sandbox, and we hope you develop new and compelling strategies by balancing these tools and their trade-offs against the other things you choose to carry around with you. And if you're an Interloper regular, have no fear. We've excluded revolver spawns from Interloper games, so they will continue to be as punishingly hardcore as you like them to be. Speaking of Interloper, we've added a small thing that might be really meaningful for you players, as well as for anyone who is in the early or late game and finds themselves with either an abundance of cloth or a real lack of head and hand coverings. We've added improvised cloth wraps for the head and hand slots. You can harvest cloth from a variety of places in the world, curtains, blankets, other clothing, and use it to craft simple head or hand wraps, which will help take the chill off and probably prevent frostbite from forming in those areas. Sometimes it's the small things that count. As always, this update comes with a host of smaller quality of life improvements and bug fixes, as well as these larger new features. We've fixed dozens of bugs, added an improved weak ice indicator, updated the bow and arrow models, and added some blur to the aim camera there so it matches the more focused view you now get with a rifle and revolver. We've smoothed out some of the wildlife animations so they look better when moving through the world or when they are running right at you. And we didn't only touch survival mode with this update, we've also taken a lot of player feedback on Redux to heart and improved the bear spear missions in episode 2, making the bear encounters more forgiving, making the bear spear gameplay more intuitive, and streamlining the final bear cave encounter so that it's not as frustrating. We've also added an accessible struggle option in the accessibility settings, which lets players toggle between the current tap to win struggle approach to instead a hold to win option. This should make episode 2 and the rest of the game much more survivable for anyone who finds the rapid tapping or button mashing action to be unfairly challenging. The accessible struggle option picks a middle of the road result in the struggle, which means that sometimes you'll get a better result if you tap to win, but a better result isn't guaranteed. This way, neither approach is more optimal from a gameplay standpoint. Use the approach you feel most comfortable with. Accessible struggle doesn't make the game easier, it just levels the playing field for those who can't make the tapping action work. As always, we hope you enjoy the latest update to the Long Dark Survival Mode. These updates are free to all our players, so all you have to do is make sure you have the most updated version of the game, and you too can play this content immediately. If you run into any bugs when playing the latest update, please visit hinterlandgames.com/support and log a ticket, and our support team will get back to you as quickly as possible. And believe it or not, this will get you help sooner than logging a negative user review because of a bug you encounter. Please remember that the people behind the Long Dark are trying to make the best experience we can for you, and while we work hard to make the game as bug-free as possible, we don't always catch them all. What we will do is always strive to fix any issues that arise as quickly as we can, and using the support portal really helps us to accomplish that for you. If you have any feedback or just want to discuss this update with other players like you, please join the official community at hinterlandforums.com, where membership lets you participate in the weekly Melton mailbag feature, amongst other things, and lets you share your love of the Long Dark with one of the best communities in games today. Thanks for listening, and enjoy your time in the quiet apocalypse.